Now, Paul, he had a desire to visit Rome. He wrote Romans, and if you would read Romans, it's like, some people would like to call it like the Constitution of Christianity. It's everything that, sometimes as a new Christian, you might start out reading Romans because it gives you the basics. It gives you everything that you need to know to start out a Christian walk. Paul was superb in how he wrote. He was very intelligent. He knew both sides. Like we've always talked about Paul, he persecuted the church. He knew the law, and he thought the law saved you. He thought you'd be disciplined, but that wasn't the case until God showed him on the road to Damascus. And then he knew how wrong he was. So he knew both sides. He knew the law, and he knew Jesus for the first time on the road to Damascus. So he wrote Romans, and he wrote it in Corinth during his third missionary. And he was trying to, writing this letter to the Romans to anticipate a visit to Rome. Because Paul wanted to go to Rome. If Rome was the most modern city of the world at that time. They concentrated, Rome was very popular with the roads. We've all heard the saying, all roads lead to Rome. Wherever Rome went, they built roads, and that was the case. All roads did go to Rome. Paul knew if he could get into Rome, then the word would spread throughout. And the word had already got to Rome, but Paul wanted to get to Rome. Yeah. Paul wanted to be in the mainstream. Right. Through Paul's ministry, everywhere he went, he had to go to the Jews first. He had to go to the synagogue, and then to the Gentiles. When he was going to get to Rome, I'm getting real ahead of myself in this lesson. I'll just start off with, I'm going to read verse 1. It says, "First, I thank my God through Jesus Christ for you all, that your faith is spoken of throughout the whole world." Now here we go. It's already went through the whole world. The church that was in Rome. Now, grant you, when Paul addressed, if you would read in the very first one, he addressed not as a church, but he addressed as the people in this letter as saints. There was no church. There was no centralized. In Corinth and Philippi and Thessalonica, there was a church. But in Rome, people gathered several, as if we do. There wasn't one main body of church. So he wrote and addressed this letter to the saints. So as he addressed his letter, and as we seen that their popularity had already spread to Paul and throughout the whole world of what was going on in Rome. "For God is my witness, whom I serve with my spirit in the gospel of his Son, that without ceasing I may make mention of you always in my prayers." Paul had never met these people. Paul had never been there, even though he wanted to be there. But Paul prayed. How important it is. Just like Kinky. I know Kinky. But it's been a long time since I've seen Kinky. But Kinky needed my prayer. As he testified today. He couldn't, there's probably times he couldn't pray. But he needed our prayers as a church. Paul was praying for something that he couldn't see, never met, just like we should. There's people across this world that has been missionary work who needs our prayers. They're going through tough times. There's people in this world today that if they speak up of Christ, they will be persecuted just like they are in the Bible, just like they are today. They need our prayers.
Sure.
Prayer is much. Prayer is strong. Prayer is power. Making request, if by any means now at length I might have a prosperous journey by the will of God to come unto you. So he was telling them, if it's in God's, it ain't my will. Paul wanted to come. Paul kept stumbling, couldn't get there. But he said, if it's God's will, I'm going to be there. That's how we need to live our life. First and foremost, we have to ask for everything in God's will and through our prayers. For I long to see you, that I may impart unto you some spiritual gifts, to the end ye may be established. Now we don't know, what spiritual gifts that Paul was talking about, but spiritual gifts to us could be prophecy, it could be ministry, song, cheerfulness, mercy, exhorteth, and teaching. All of these things. How many times have you been, maybe as a Christian, see another Christian, you might be down in the dumps and need lifted up, and they bring you down just as further than what you were to start off with. When God has given us all gifts, sometimes it may be just to be cheerful to somebody or to another Christian, just to lift them up because they are desperately sinking, and the only thing you have to do is just to be happy. Be cheerful. It's not so much, not everybody is a pastor, not everybody is a teacher, but everybody can do their own little part. Not everybody's a song writer or a singer or an instrument player, but we can be happy that God saved your soul.
Amen.
And share it with somebody else.
Amen.
That is, that I may be comforted together with you by the mutual faith, both of you and me. Now I would not have you ignorant, brethren, that oftentimes I purposed to come unto you, but was left hitherto, that I may have some fruit among you also, even as among the Gentiles. Here he is, he's declaring that he's wanting to be with them, but things keep coming into his way. And Paul doesn't be specific about this. How many times have we went to do something or go to somebody and every time you turn around something comes up. You can't do it. But this was happening to Paul. He says, I'm a debtor both to the Greeks and to the barbarians, both to the wise and to the unwise. Paul loved God. Paul loved Jesus. And when he says, I'm a debtor, I told you before, Paul persecuted the church. And that weighed heavy on Paul. I believe Paul, it hurt him so much that he believed that no matter how much good he did, it sort of couldn't erase the bad that he done. It's like, I feel like it was a debt that he couldn't pay.
Come on, buddy.
It was a burden on him, but it gave him the drive to spread the gospel. That he, no matter how many people that he could, he was going to touch. Because I think it justified how many people that he touched in the wrong way. So, and when it says the barbarians, that was anybody who didn't speak Greek. It wasn't like what we would think as barbarians, you know, as we see in the movies. Barbarians was anybody that didn't speak the Greek language. It says, so as much as in me is, I am ready. He said he was eager to preach the gospel to you that are at Rome also. For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ. For it is my power of God unto salvation to everyone that believeth, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek. Which in Greek is also Gentiles, which is us. He was always told that, you know, that they would spread the word to the Jews first. And that was Paul's, and that's how Paul went. He went to a city, he went to the synagogue first. When he spoke to the synagogue, he asked if they were, you know, more or less he asked if they believed in Jesus Christ. If they did, then that was one step closer. Do you believe that he raised from the dead? If they did, that was one step closer. So if he got the favor of the church, it made preaching in the city a whole lot easier. But a lot of times, the church didn't let him. A lot of times, the church didn't believe that. So that made preaching to the people so much more difficult. A lot of times, he was ran out before he could even start. So it was a burdensome. He had problems, but he didn't give up. How many times have we went and tried to witness to somebody, and they say one little thing or one little negative, and we just fold up and say, no, that's not what I need to do. Sometimes we got to be bold. Sometimes we got to tell them exactly how it is.
That's right.
Because it's their life. At least you can step back and say, I told what what God had laid upon my heart to tell them. Because it might be the last time somebody tells them the truth. The truth will set you free. The truth is the power.
Yeah.
Jesus is the truth. We try to whitewash everything, but there's still the truth. It says, for therein is the righteousness of God, revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. So when I look at that, so for therein the cross. So if I put cross, for therein the cross is the righteousness of God. That you're right with God. For if I'm in the cross, I'm right with God. Like all roads lead to Rome, all ways go back to the cross. We have to believe what the cross represented. The cross meant that the Son of God gave his life for us, had the supreme sacrifice, perfect sacrifice. He was a lamb, willingly gave up his life, died and raised from the dead on the third day to have that supreme sacrifice for us. We believe that, and we share that from the saints, from their faith to my faith. From Paul's faith down to the people that he shared, from word of mouth. Like, we looked at Rome, and Paul was saying, you know, it's that you've got a reputation throughout the whole world. Now I can get on Facebook and I can put something there and share it with so many people. They can share it, and within no time it can go viral, and it was spread. This was word by mouth.
Yeah.
This wasn't no technology.
Yep.
This was me telling, I got good news to you. This is me saying, I got a story for you. I got a man that died and bled for us and hung on a cross, raised in 3 days, so that we can make heaven our home. He was Son. He was the deity. He was God in the flesh. Word by mouth.
Yep.
And it went through the whole world. And it's still going through the whole world. Up into this day. So it's from their faith to my faith. I can't show you a video saying, look here, this is it. And give you a time print and say, see, he died. Look at here. I can't show it to you. I can just tell you, and through my faith to your faith, you believe it. That's power. As it is written, the just shall live by the faith. That's how we live our lives, through that faith. That's how we get our power. That's how we get our spiritual uplifting, is through that faith. Sometimes our faith gets beat up, but what we got to do, we got to take it back to the cross. We got to take it back to where it all started. He said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. He said, I'll be with you to the bitter end. I'll stick closer to you than a brother. This gospel is for everyone. It's for the rich, it's for the poor, it's for whatever nationality you come from. It doesn't matter what color your skin is.
Amen.
It said that there was a parable even about the rich man saying, he wanted to, what do I have to do? And Jesus told him, give up all your goods. He was telling him, he said, what do I have to do? Only thing you have to do is what? Believe and have faith in him. Believe that he is the Christ.
Yeah.
He told him to give up all these possessions. He told him it's easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle. Well, you can interpret that two different ways. You could look at an eye of a needle and say, ain't no way a camel can go through that. In the Old Testament, in the old Jerusalem, the wall was probably 6 foot. I think it was like 6 chariots. You could fit 6 chariots in that wall. There was a small door, and they called that the eye of the needle. So if you had a camel, and it was just more or less, you couldn't smuggle in and out goods or people on your camel. So you had a camel, you want to take it through that wall, you couldn't go through the big gate. You open up the big gate, whatever could go in. It was broad. They had a small gate, and they had a piece of board. Well, the camel had all that pack, had all the gear, all the necessities that you would have as you travel. You had to unload it, because that camel couldn't fit through that door. So that way, they could search the goods that you had on your camel and everything as you took it off. Well, you put that camel on that board, you'd had to crawl and you had to shove your camel through that door, through that wall. So far through that wall, there was an opening and there'd be a guard. Anything that come through that wall, well, it wasn't a camel, cut your head off. But the point is, some people say that's what Jesus was talking about, but the point is that it fits. Sometimes we're outside that wall. You've got a lot of stuff on your back. You're burdened down with a lot of stuff. You got to take it off. You got to let Jesus have it. Let God handle it. You got to get on your knees. You got to pray for forgiveness. You get through that wall to the other side. The other side is heaven. There's different ways you can look at that, different ways you can take it. He was telling to the rich man. The rich man had said, it's not about riches. It's not about, the rich man said, I served Jesus gave him the commandments, and he said, I've done all these. It's not about the law. Under the New Testament, the law is written in your heart. It's not written on books. You know when you've done wrong. You know when God touches you. and prick your heart and say, this is not right. It's written on the inside. Only one man can do that. There's not a man on this earth that can write stuff and put it in your heart like Jesus can. God created us that way. So sometimes we have people that, that unfortunately that's come to drug addiction or some kind of habitual thing, and I used to smoke cigarettes, and to this day I still want them.
Time to time.
Sometimes I can smell a certain brand. I can tell the difference between the brands. There's a certain brand, and if I smell it, my mouth will water. I want it.
Your body, yeah.
Because I, as a person, have denied myself that and tried to live a healthier life. Sometimes these people that's been on drugs, they're not strong enough. No matter how hard they try, they've been through programs and programs and programs, and they can't. And it only goes for a little while, and it pulls them right back in.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but I know a man
Yeah.
that can change. They've done it in their mind, but they can't change their heart. I know a man that can change the heart on the inside and change the man on the outside.
Yeah.
You got to give it to Jesus. If you're in that kind of a
Ain't working on
situation,
herself.
there's no man that can help you except for Jesus, because He is the one that can change you on the inside. If you're sin-stricken and you think, don't tell yourself, I can't live a Christian life. Give it to Jesus. Let Him be the man that changes you on the inside and not the outside. Because outside this world is going to tell you can't do it, and you will fail if you try to do it on your own. It's Jesus going on the inside of you. But you got to give it all to Him. That's the only thing. You got to be submissive to Him and have the faith that He can do it. You give it to Him, and He's just there to be for you. It all goes down to faith. He loves you. He don't want none of us to be confounded. I know this was a short lesson, but that's what
It was good.
Jesus had put on my heart. And I struggled with it the whole time. And I kept telling Jody, I'm telling you, because I knew they'd be watching from Facebook. I said, Lord, don't you even try to fall, don't get sleepy on the couch watching this. I said, because you might miss my whole thing, And that's another thing. When you at the house, get your mind ready to go to church.
Yeah.
Don't be sitting there half-hearted and turn it on and trying to do something at the same time. It's church time. We're here to be fed.
Yeah.
This thing will pass in time.
Yeah.
Like I say, give to Jesus.
Roll the wind aside.
That's right.
Amen.